Airforce Delta on Gameboy Color features a two-player link cable mode. Accessible from the main menu when two copies are connected together, this action flying game has 3 multiplayer modes, but they probably aren't what you think. Before highlighting the multiplayer mode, know that Airforce Delta is sort of like an unimpressive, not that exciting Star Fox-ish on-rails flying game. Playing as a flying death machine, the player can control vertical movement with the D-pad, up is down, down is up, while the A and B buttons launch missiles and the machine gun. The plane auto-flies into the screen, there is no way to adjust speed, and the mini-map in the corner indicates incoming enemy craft. But this game basically plays itself. If you hold down the machine gun button, the plane will auto-target incoming enemies and shoot them down. Sure, you might take a hit once in a while, so dodging with the D-pad is recommended, but the lock-on is so strong that you don't really need to do anything. I was able to record this footage using my 2 hands by simply holding A on both systems, no D-padding required. So this same auto lock-on gameplay extends into the multiplayer mode, but instead of dogfighting each other in the sky, each player controls their plane but through a shared environment. The endurance mode is your standard last man standing match. The goal in First to Ace is to take down 50 enemies before your opponent, but the game will end if a player dies along the way. In other words, it's the endurance mode, but with a slight twist. And Bonus Battle has collectible items that can help you or hurt your opponent, but they're so small, barely available, and fly by so fast you can't even collect them. So basically, all 3 multiplayer modes are exactly the same, just with a side gimmick that doesn't add anything to the gameplay. It's just weird because you can't shoot each other, just the enemies that appear with the very forgiving lock-on feature. So each player is playing the same game, but if player 1 shoots down an enemy craft, that plane disappears from player 2's screen. In other words, you need to hope your lock-on feature works better than your opponent's in that given moment. There is an attempt to spice up gameplay by adding 4 different landscapes, but the differences are cosmetic only. Although, if you take the time to fly high enough by holding down on the D-pad, the screen introduces this fog cloud effect, which is sort of cool, I guess. Also, the flyable planes all play exactly the same even though they have different metered stats on the select screen. And when linked, both players play as the same plane. Whoever picks a plane first is the plane that gets decided for both players. But again, it doesn't make a difference anyway. There are not too many on-rails flying into the screen flight sims on Game Boy Color, so it isn't fair to pick on the visuals. They're fine. The music, however, is very beep-heavy and gets annoying quickly. I was doing research for this video and saw Airforce Delta had a multiplayer mode, I was anticipating something like the multiplayer mode in Star Fox 64 through a link cable. I mean, that would make sense since each player has their own screen. So when I realized the link cable option was sadly nothing more than an auto-aiming shooting gallery, one without options or excitement, I was horribly disappointed. So it's cool that some effort went into this dogfighting simulator's multiplayer mode, and again, there's not too many games like it on the system, but unfortunately, you haven't been missing anything if you never played it for yourself. So instead of playing this GBC port, maybe check out the Dreamcast version instead. But what do you think? Have you ever played Airforce Delta on Game Boy Color? What flying games do you enjoy? And how do you like to rain death upon your opponents from an aerial perspective? Let me know in the comments. And for tons more link cable content you never played for yourself, see the links to my dedicated playlists in the description. And please consider joining my Patreon. Your support helps keeps content like this going. Until next time, thank you for watching and game on.